There is a gray and red building on the corner of Main Street in southeast Portland that, from the outside, seems unassuming. But open the door and it's loud. Really loud. And there's a unique smell, too. It's almost nutty, which is a little surprising because this is a coffee roastery.
I'm Cassie Gleason. I am co-owner of Marigold Coffee and Buckman Coffee Factory.
And I'm Joey Gleason, co-owner of Marigold Coffee and Buckman Coffee Factory, and we're also sisters. And Buckman Coffee Factory is where all kinds of folks come to roast coffee.
The inside of Buckman Coffee Factory is segmented. A large event space with a wall of windows looks out directly onto the roastery floor, with a few folks working at roasters of varying sizes.
We kind of don't have a typical roaster. It depends on what brings someone into the space. Like we have a father-daughter team who wanted to have a hobby to share together. Then we have other folks who maybe have been running a cafe but want to create a better efficiency, want to reduce their costs, and so they decided to start roasting their own.
It's what's called a co-roasting space, which allows for a shared cost of equipment and business overhead. And that is a big deal when you realize the cost of a commercial coffee roaster can be more than a new car. Sometimes machines get up into the six figures. The space is set up kind of like a gym. They have the equipment and the know-how. You just have to show up and put in the work.
We're pretty relaxed and open about letting people find their own way. And I actually think part of that might have to do with a little bit with our upbringing, because we were thrown on farming equipment at a pretty young age, like figure it out. And then I also think, how Joey learned how to roast herself was really trial and error and by experimentation.
I always try to tell people when they first start roasting, if you try to explain to somebody how to drive a car, it would just sound really
insane.
Crazy. But you have to get in the car and drive it, and then you'll learn how to drive. We try to get people on the machine roasting, so that intimidating part is not there, and they understand just the mechanics of it. It would be just like cooking. Yeah. You have to be in the kitchen doing your thing.
And it's facilities like this one in Portland that could be the key to coffee's future. I'm Jen Chavez, and this is The Evergreen, a podcast about the place you call home. I'm going to turn the podcast over to my friend and colleague, Crystal Ligori, to help tell the story of the Pacific Northwest's role in coffee's rise from an obscure Ethiopian cherry to a legendary morning brew, and how micro-roasting could be the future of coffee in Oregon.
I grew up loving the taste of coffee. Even as a kid, I remember sneaking sips out of a styrofoam cup in my dad's truck on the way to school. The coffee was definitely pre-ground Folgers, and my dad takes his coffee with a generous amount of sugar. So the brew was a far cry from the coffee I drink today.
Oat milk cortado.
Over the last century, coffee has transformed into somewhat of a cult beverage.
Give me coffee. Black coffee.
Well, this coffee tastes like rocket fuel.
This is, a damn fine cup of coffee.
I don't need you to tell me how f***ing good my coffee is, okay? I'm the one who buys it. I know how good it is.
More coffee, hon?
Yeah, just keep it coming, please.
At last count, Americans were drinking more than 500 million cups of coffee each day.
I drink coffee every day. I primarily make it at home. Just honestly, part of is my morning routine, kind of just helps me get going in the morning, and then also to help me wake up and just get that extra caffeine boost. Yeah.
But many of us don't really know about the beans we brew. And I'm not just talking about the farm they came from or the variety of the coffee bean. I mean the basics.
I understand it's a bean, but beyond that, I'm not too well informed about the origins of coffee.
I don't know why I feel like it's like chocolate. I don't know, is it like in some sort of pod? I don't actually know.
I don't really know. I just know that it's I know the beans, and then I know the coffee bags that they're all in.
Well, for starters, coffee isn't a bean at all, but instead it's the seed of a coffee cherry. They grow clustered together on the branches of short, stocky coffee trees and look similar to extra-large cranberries when ripe. Ethiopia has long been considered the birthplace of coffee, with its discovery credited to a 9th century goat herder named Kaldi, who, legend says, noticed his goats were dancing in the moonlight after eating the red fruit of the coffee tree. The first tangible evidence of coffee drinking dates back to the 15th century in the Sufi monasteries in Yemen. From there, coffee spread to Egypt, Syria, and Turkey, then across Europe and into the Americas by the 18th century. But for a place that doesn't even grow coffee, the Pacific Northwest has actually had a pretty big influence on the global coffee culture. Of course, iconic coffee brands like Peet's, Starbucks, and Stumptown were all born on the West Coast. But way before them, like 100 years before them, we had Closet Endeavors, Lang & Co., Boyd's Coffee Company, and even Fred G. Meyer. Yeah, that Fred Meyer, selling coffee from a horse-drawn cart right here in Oregon. The modern trajectory of coffee is often classified into 3 waves.
So first wave coffee is generally considered the commercial coffees that your parents or grandparents might have had, like the can of Folgers or something, those really mainstream brands that you could find all over the place.
That's Shauna Alexander, the Vice President of Coffee and Sustainability at Stumptown Coffee Roasters. By the 1960s and 70s, espresso-based drinks started to be introduced to the larger population, and the drip diner coffee gave way to things like cappuccinos and lattes.
Second wave would be the pioneering efforts of Peet's and Starbucks to bring a really dark roast coffee and bring something more distinct to the American palate. That completely transformed coffee in the United States and was definitely the advent of specialty coffee.
That term, specialty coffee, was coined in the mid-70s and emphasized the idea that much like wine, different varieties will produce unique flavor profiles in the finished product. By the 80s and 90s, palates were shifting again.
What third wave really did was put the focus on the coffee itself, less on the roast and more on the coffee and on the unique attributes that are in the coffee, the terroir of the coffee, if you will, the variety, the growing conditions, the preparation that give it specific organoleptic characteristics.
Iconic Oregon roasters like Coffee People came on the scene during this time. A fun fact, Coffee People founders Jim and Patty Roberts actually created the first drive-through coffee shop called Motor Mocha back in 1990. But there were 3 roasters that came to define coffee's third wave: Chicago's Intelligentsia, Counterculture from North Carolina, and Portland's Stumptown Coffee Roasters. Coming up after a break, we're going to meet 2 roasters at the forefront of what could be the 4th wave of coffee.
Thanks for listening to The Evergreen, our podcast from OPB about the place you call home. If you dig what you hear, subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app, and we will brighten your Monday morning just a little bit with something new and exciting to listen to each week. You can also follow OPB on Instagram at OPB Photo, or follow me directly at Jen Chavez OPB. That's Jen with 2 N's, by the way. And I'll keep you posted on what Team Evergreen is up to. And remember, this episode about coffee in the Pacific Northwest and all the great OPB reporting and storytelling you hear on this show is made possible by the support of many thousands of OPB members. For a public media organization like us, members truly do make the world go round. Support our journalism by becoming an OPB sustaining member today at opb.org/pod. And now, back to coffee.
My name is Kia Booker, and I am one of the owners and the roaster for Kia and Martin's Coffee. For our dark roast, we go to second crack, which means it does extra time. So
I met up with Kia at her coffee shop on the second floor of the Lloyd Center Mall in Portland. It may seem like an unlikely place to get specialty coffee, but for Kia and Martin, it's a perfect fit.
Valentine's Day 2023, I think I heard on NPR some different ideas of what to do for Valentine's Day. And one of them was to go to the mall and buy each other gifts from places that you like. So we came to Lloyd Center Mall, and I think he bought me a screen printed bag, and I bought him a record from the record shop. And we were like, this is amazing. These are totally like our people. And we realized that it was like the accessible way for us to actually have a brick and mortar space, because it's so much money to get into that stuff. We roast at a co-roasting facility, and now we're in a mall where the entry for having our own space was just like so reasonable that we couldn't kind of pass it up.
Kia has a long history working in coffee, starting as a barista when she moved to Portland 20 years ago. But her love of coffee goes back even further.
I lived in Italy for like 3 years when I was 7 years old. I'm a military brat, and my dad was stationed there in Verona, Italy. And I remember going to a coffee shop, and I was very much an adventurous kid. And my dad got an affogato essentially and gave me an espresso shot, just like poured it over ice cream. And it was like the most magical thing.
As Kia got older, affogatos gave way to cappuccinos to black coffee or espresso, the milk no longer acting as that gateway through the intense flavor. And her love of coffee transformed into a career in coffee.
And I've worked at some of like the best shops in town, including Extracto, Stumptown, Crema, Tiny's, and I'm just really, really enjoying the coffee culture.
But it was a culture that Kia didn't always feel accepted into.
Because I've had some not so great experiences in terms of being the only Black person working at most of the shops that I worked at. And I was kind of burned out by it, didn't really see myself in it for a while. So when I left coffee, I became really interested in social justice issues and environmental justice. So I actually went and worked for environmental justice organizations in Portland, and became a people and culture manager with a real strong emphasis on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how that shapes the way that we can support staff at an organization.
It wasn't long before Kia was drawn back into coffee, but this time it was going to be on her own terms. Kia's husband, Martin Leeper, had been running a small subscription-based coffee service after working for larger roasters the previous 2 decades.
It was kind of Martin's thing. He was roasting coffee for people. We were doing just subscription-based, and there was a lot of our friends and stuff that were kind of coming onto it. And I was kind of helping out with the website. But then he kind of came to me and said, I want you to be more involved. You have such a gift in terms of your coffee knowledge and how you connect to coffee. I want that to be more a part of this business. So I basically was like, I want to be the roaster if we're going to do it. I really wanted to have a different face of what coffee could look like. And I really wanted to create sort of a different narrative of what it could look like to be a roaster.
In addition to taking on the role of roaster, Kia also integrated her background in DEI into their coffee company.
We had a business advisor that was like, your prices are too low for everything that you sell. Like, they're too low. You're never going to make money. You're not going to be sustainable. And I was like, but I want people like us to be able to afford our coffee. Like, we're not trying to be some like high-end coffee shop. I think that everybody deserves some good quality stuff. And I don't want to outprice our customers.
The solution? An equity pricing model to give customers 3 different options of what they could pay for a bag of beans.
I was thinking about reparations, to be honest. I was thinking about how do people kind of acknowledge the disparities in access to opportunities. And this is a way that people can do it, but they don't have to do it. I'm just giving them an option of doing it and making them think a little bit more intentionally about how they spend their money. And if they can afford to give more for that really great cup of coffee, then they will. And if they can't, that's totally fine too.
Kia is one of the roasters utilizing the Buckman Coffee Factory, which you heard Jen mention earlier.
We've only ever roasted at co-roasting facilities, and Buckman Coffee Factory has been kind of a godsend for us in terms of how welcoming they are. I also love that it's a woman and family-owned business. They're super rad. The other roasters in there are super rad. There's a lot of diversity within the people that are actually roasting there and owning their own businesses. And it's just it's been a lovely, lovely experience.
The role that Buckman plays, I think, is underappreciated for a place like Portland. Like if you go to cafes in Portland, most places roast their own coffee, right? We have looked into the possibility. I actually even bought a roaster. I own a roaster. I've had it for a couple years. And we've looked at the possibility of starting our own roasting space, our own facility in Chinatown. It was a plan. We were planning for it. And it's just really hard to leave Buckman.
That's Ian Williams, the owner and roaster at Deadstock Coffee, a sneaker-themed coffee shop in Portland's Chinatown. When he first opened, he was purchasing coffee from another roaster, but the idea to roast his own was always in the back of his mind.
I'm a sneaker head. I'm a dude who likes to mess with stuff. I'm really into how things are made. When I was at Nike, I was a developer, so I was like an engineer. So for me, it's always been like, how do we make things? How do we, how stuff is done? You know, I had the idea to start roasting, but it still wasn't really, I just wanted to start messing with stuff.
The push to roast his own coffee came in early 2018. Ian had taken an introductory roasting class at Buckman a few months before, but when a record-breaking snowstorm shut down the city, he had to fend for himself.
I just went to this place called Mr. Green Bean, started buying coffee by the pound, unroasted coffee by the pound, taking it to Buckman, paying for my hour, roasting the coffee, and I couldn't really drive. It was too icy, so I just would put everything in my backpack and just walk from my house to Mr. Green Bean, to the roastery, back to the shop, and I worked by myself because we didn't have any money. That's how I started roasting, and then it went from 5 pounds roasting on the little baby roaster for an hour to roasting 20 pounds in the bigger roaster, and now we do anywhere from 300 to 600 pounds a week. That's not a lot, but it's not a little. It's definitely more than 5.
And it's spaces like Buckman and other co-roasting facilities that help the 200 or so micro-roasters in Oregon thrive. And it's not just because of a shared access to equipment.
A lot of things that I learned about roasting, I learned from asking the person who was roasting next to me. Or I get the chance to taste coffees that I would never have tried before because we either can't afford it or we don't roast like that or whatever. And just watch the way that people come in and use and set up themselves for using the roaster. Even though it's the same piece of equipment, everybody uses it differently. And it's really, really cool because it's really art, right? It's expression.
And that could be key to the next wave of coffee.
We talk about first, second, third wave, and then now we're looking at the fourth. What is the fourth? And I think the fourth really is about accessibility. It's accessibility based around the small batch roaster. I've heard that it's accessibility, but from the space of the Keurig and the K-Cup, right? And I have also heard, and really want to stand firm on, for me, because this is what we do, it's the coffee shop that's based around community first. The impact hubs and places like that that are community spaces that just happen to do coffee very well. It's all about accessibility. It's all about making it so that it can be for everyone, whichever way you want it. And that's what I see the future as.
So the next time you get your coffee, whether it's from Fred Meyer or Stumptown or one of the 200 shops roasting their own, you can be proud that the Pacific Northwest has been at the forefront of coffee culture for 100 years and is leading the path into coffee's future, whatever that may be.
That was OPB's Crystal Ligori. You can find out much more about coffee in the Pacific Northwest by watching the whole documentary she made about it for OPB's Super Abundant, a video series all about the Pacific Northwest ingredients and foods you know and love. We'll drop a link to Crystal's video in our show notes, and you can find all of Super Abundant's stories at opb.org/superabundant. Thank you so much for listening to The Evergreen, a podcast from OPB. The OPB podcast team includes Mia Estrada, Julie Sabatier, Sage Van Wing, and yours truly. Our technical director is Stephen Cray. Crystal Ligori, Stephanie Gordon, and Todd Sanfleeth did the interviews you heard. The music in this episode is from Audio Network. And if you have a question for us, don't forget you can hit us up. You can reach us real easy by email at theevergreen@opb.org. I'm Jen Chavez. Catch you later.